Hi, it's Due, and I've had a fantastic extended weekend of being bookish. I have gone to a couple friends of the library sales. I've gone to little free libraries. I made a video about the little free library haul somewhere midweek that I had done at the end of last week. I had a tote full of books of which I bought for 10 for $5 that I got to, kind of think about what I wanted to keep, what I maybe didn't want to keep, what I wanted to unhaul. I've since made some decisions and unhauled some of them. And I've talked with a lot of folks about books. I've been to an indie bookstore just to go kind of be around books. I'm just really in a place where I like to be around books and talk about books. And they bring so much joy to my life. I did have a negative experience, and I'm just going to summarize it really quickly. And I was going to just talk about how I felt about this. And, as a listener, if you're listening to this, you can decide. Of course, we can give grace and understanding to all sides of stories. So this is just what happened to me. I was at a little free library, one I go to quite often, one I actually really like. And it's in a neighborhood where I used to live. And it has been the source for great books for me, like the recently finished Ann Patchett's State of Wonder, like the somewhat recently finished Tin Man and Ordinary People. Those are all three books top of mind that came out of that little free library. Each and every time I go there, I leave the exact amount of books that I take as an exchange. And sometimes if I have a few extras, it's one that I feel good about leaving something in, even if I'm not taking, because I said in past videos, the stewards are great and it looks like books circulate. I think I'd also said in a video somewhat recently that it seemed like it had been cleaned out and that I didn't know. I was hoping that the stewards had just taken books to go through them, make sure that they weren't accruing weather damage and put them back in. But alas, I was to find out the truth of that because I was at the box today and I was reading the back of a book. I had a tote full of books, none of which came from that little free library. All of them were books that I had recently thrifted or had read and was ready to unhaul, that I had hauled from friends of the library, now indie bookstores, thrifting, or other free libraries. And a lady came up, and I don't begrudge this woman for looking out as a neighbor or maybe even the steward of a little free library. But I didn't like being profiled. And the way in which she talked to me wasn't rude, but it was definitely of that tone of voice. And anybody who knows what I'm talking about, which was false friendly. And she went on to tell me that the little free library had been cleared out. But instead of assuming or noticing, right, instead of actually looking and observing what was going on, she then went on to go say something such as, so, I mean, as much as you're able, can you make sure to contribute? I know the culture of little free libraries. She doesn't know if I know that. However, her approach for me, I felt profiled. I felt like she could have struck up a conversation. She could have said, what books do you like? Oh, were you planning on giving any? There's so many ways to approach. I mean, it was so obvious what she thought of me before she walked up. And, my response was to just be friendly back, suggest some of the things. Had she engaged me in a conversation right off, I could have said any of the things that I just said to you, like this. In fact, by the end, I told her, oh yeah, there's great books in this little free library. I always exchange. I come back and the books that I've left are gone. In any case, then she thanked me. Oh, well then, thank you for being a good user. I understand people are crappy and do things that are problematic, such as clear out little free libraries. I don't pretend to understand their motivation. Are they homeless and hungry and need whatever paltry amount of money, because we all know you can't necessarily resale books for very much. And in little free libraries, there's a lot of ARCs. Or are they just being nasty and vandalistic? I don't know. I understand that it must be difficult as a steward or a neighbor of a steward of a little free library to see something used in a way that isn't in the intention. And I also think you should always treat people with the benefit of the doubt, especially if you were able to observe that I had a tote full of books and just even stand back and watch for a minute without, without coming up with assumptions. It was a negative experience. So much so that it's something that I'm going to have to work through to ever go back to that little free library. As there's dozens of them, it's one that I was really endeared to. No longer endeared to. Kind of thought, kind of a shitty experience for me. Anyway, just thought I'd share, just again, how you make people feel matters to me. And I love books. I would have talked to her all day about books, about how I could help, if I could contribute more to that little free library, instead of being made feel like I was the thief. In any case, I got this book, which is a beautiful book. So let's be honest. I got this fantastically beautiful, well-conditioned hardback, which is Where the Light Falls. And this is the selected stories of Nancy Hale. And it's edited and definitely published posthumously. And Nancy Hale was born in 1908. Lived through both those world wars and passed away in 1988. She was the author of 8 novels and a couple of plays, and she apparently, wrote and maybe even published short stories. And then I think that this Lauren Groff collected them and put them in this book. So this to me suggests feminine or female focused perspectives of what was probably at the time contemporary, but for me will now be historical events. I traded Alice Munro's Dear Life, which were very much feminine focused, sort of historically contexted short stories in Canada. And I thought that was a spectacular trade. I think if anyone's doing this little free library thing, as I am, and I've seen other YouTubers, they think about, okay, what's in this library? What can I trade for? What would be well received? What kind of books are in here so that I can contribute to it? And I felt pretty good, not about how I was treated, although it ended up being a friendly exchange in the end with that woman. I felt pretty good about that trade. Moving on. Also in my former neighborhood. So the next 3 all are from my former neighborhood. I went over there today. I went to a coffee shop over there. I walked around, and I'm currently almost done, like all but the last 50 pages of The Spectator Bird, which wasn't the Pulitzer winner for that author, who's, I'm right in the middle of it, whose name I'm just mind blanking right now. In any case, it was a National Book Award winner, but it was published in 1976. And I can tell you, oh my gosh, I really, really, really like that book. So that inspired me to go ahead and pick up this, which I probably would have passed up from a little free library. I traded for it probably, I put 2 or more, maybe even 3+ books, because I put some of the books that I got thrifting at St. Vincent de Paul in some little free libraries today that I didn't take from. And in any case, this is a Pulitzer Prize winning book by Eudora Welty, and it's called The Optimist's Daughter. And its publication, it has 2 publication dates, which is 69 and 72. So kind of around the same time. I mean, we're going to call it a novella, right? It's a short book, and I'm intrigued. It says that I don't know how I don't know this author, but sometimes memory, man. Anyway, Eudora Weltley was born in Jackson, Mississippi, and which was still her home at the time of this publication. She was educated locally in the Mississippi State College for Women, and then the University of Wisconsin, and then Columbia University Graduate School for Business. I mean, just because I'm having such a good time with the Spectator Bird, I kind of almost want to jump right into this, but I'm going to let it just kind of sit in my classic shelf. I just have a little classic shelf, talked about it kind of recently when I was talking about The Idiot. So, next, also from my that same old neighborhood, I went ahead and grabbed Malibu Rising, and I'm trying to think of what I traded for. Yes, I know what I traded for this. I traded the ARC, the Abby Jimenez ARC, because I thought that Abby Jimenez was a fair trade for Taylor Jenkins Reid. Although this is going to be my third Taylor Jenkins Reid on my shelf, all hauled. No, one hauled from Little Free Library, one hauled from Thrift Shop. I normally don't take authors until they're vetted, but this to me, first of all, I really like the synopsis. So it's a party. It's like a night. It's a party. Things kind of get out of control. Family secrets come out. And then this has a huge impact on the family. And then sort of the book is exploring that party and then the reckoning of family members of these secrets. It's set in Malibu. And I thought this premise is something that I'm very interested in. Somewhat expect Taylor Jenkins Reid to be a decent storyteller. And yeah, I'm just going to put this right on, like, I'm starting to curate sort of in my mind my summer reading list. I'm going to be traveling, so I might take this as a small paperback, or I might just make sure that I can find it, the digital version of it. But this, I believe, is going on summer reading. In another Little Free Library today, in my old neighborhood, close to the coffee shop that I went to, one that I'd recently discovered, so you've heard me rave about it. In fact, those owners are always outside. I'm always telling them how much I appreciate their stewardship of the Little Free Library. And it always has great books. People aren't taking, like, every book that I've put there in exchange is still there. And then more books, so it's getting more and more full. I put the Black Book, Pamuk's The Black Book there because there's a pretty good variant of books in there, from trendy, popular to classic. There were a couple classics in there, so I thought it was decent to put Pamuk. And I don't know if this is was a fair trade, other than the red and the red, but this is what I took. Was Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. I'm so excited to find this book. And as I said in previous videos, I'm traveling to New York this month, actually. Oh, no, next month, but only next month, is in a few days. And I'm kind of curating a list of books where the setting is New York, and this is one of them. This is where a 9-year-old has embarked on an urgent secret mission that will take him through the 5 boroughs of New York. His goal is to find the lock that matches a mysterious key that belonged to his father, who died in the World Trade Center on the morning of September 11th. No matter what books I pick for that list, this one for sure gets bumped to the top. This is using all kinds of visuals. There's pictures in here. There are, oh yeah, usage of space and sort of like different text features in this book. I saw a page that had a lot of color on it, which was standy outy for me from all of this black and white. In any case, yes, super excited for this book and know exactly what reading list it's going on, what potential TBR list. Yesterday, I went for a walk in the park, in a park that I go to often. You've heard me talk about that. On my way to that park, there are actually 3 little free libraries, and yesterday I left 2 books. They were actually books that I had hauled from little free libraries, of which I already had a copy. I just knew that they were good award-winning and or popular books, and I found really editions that were books that were well kept, right? That the condition was very good, and for cheap, like 50 cents or $1, and I hauled them. I didn't talk about them in any haul video, and I won't, because I've already talked about them in another, and or we'll talk about them in I've talked about them in some capacity. And there was one little free library which it had clearly been cleaned out. And speaking of which, the owner came out that day too, maybe a bit suspicious as well, but didn't say anything to me. And I just decided to put these books in that little free library because it gave me the Women. For instance, I got the Women from there, and I got Startup from there. Both were Book of the Month hardback editions, and they were great. I really respected both of those books. All of the books that I've left there seem to have circulated out as well. Down the street, there's one that mostly had kids books, and I had some kids books that I was excited to give up. Again, I didn't make a video about it. And then State of Wonder. I decided it was State of Wonder in this little free library, and I traded it for Swamplandia. And I kind of feel good about that trade. Swamplandia totes itself, or is said to be magic realism. And we have a younger protagonist in this book too. It's a 13-year-old who's lived her entire life in Swamplandia, at her family's island home in a gator wrestling theme park in the Florida Everglades. But when an illness hits her mom, the park's indomitable headliner, the family is plunged into chaos, and her father withdraws. Her sister falls in love with a spooky character. Coming of age, right? Love that theme. Lots is going on. Love the setting kind of a theme park. And I can definitely see how that would work its way into magic realism, especially in the mind of a 13-year-old. So I honestly think this will be on my summer reads too. This just seems fun and fantastic. Also from that same little free library, where I left several books, was Men, Women, and Children, a book by Chad. I think it's called Kultgen. I think that's his name. In any case, this has been made into a movie. I don't dig on books that are made into movies or series. That's not a selling point, and oftentimes, I don't know, the story almost feels like it's made for that, and I prefer books that are made for readers, not for multimedia audiences. That being said, the one thing that I can say about books such as this, because, I mean, this movie has Judy Greer and Jennifer Gardner and Adam Sandler in it, is that people who aren't readers often have seen these series or these movies, and then I can talk to them about plot lines and character development and, parts of the movie that they watched, and kind of even just try to figure out from those conversations, what are the similarities and what are the differences. This is exploring the pressures at work on 2 different generations navigating the same internet landscape. And I think, when was this published? 2011. So, it's a little dated, but I still think that's a fantastic theme. It's fun and certainly relevant. Like 2011 now, these are these coming of age Gen Zers, like my child. And I I'm here for it. This feels like it'll be a fun summer read as well. So I'm excited. I thought this was a good trade. So now what I want to talk about is this series of books. And yes, I know. Somebody's like, get a grip. Didn't you just haul a bunch of books? And to be fair, I also unhauled a bunch of books recently. I went through them pretty diligently. I went to a Friends of the Library sale, and this sale was fantastic. The books were $1. That's what the books were. And what I found there is something that I haven't been finding much of lately, which are these sort of like classic to me. So books whose publication dates were early, mid 90s. They're fewer and far between, and especially from these power hitters like Alice Walker. So I have read a lot of Alice Walker's catalog, and to be honest, sans The Color Purple, which I clearly remember reading more than one time and love the movie. I can't remember exactly which books I have and haven't read, as I read them mostly in the 90s. And By the Light of My Father's Smile, look at this fantastic, beautiful cover. Publication date 1998. I mean, just look at this beautiful book. This is gonna obviously land in my hopefully upcoming, at least one day, TBR about books whose titles have, family member names in it. I just want to display this book. Like, I've been feeling a lot of ways about wanting books to display, and this one is so beautiful to me, and Alice Walker is so revered to me that I was beside myself to find this book. The late, and I think recently deceased, Washington State's finest author, someone who absolutely narrated my traveling time in the 90s when I was a backpacker traveler, was Tom Robbins. And at this book sale, there were 2 Tom Robbins books. This one I clearly remember reading, and even some of the plot of, which is Fierce Invalids from Hot Climates. And this one, I cannot tell you, I remember reading. That being said, I think I might have read all of Tom Robinson's book. I'm curious, like anything, will it hold up, in these rereads now in the middle of my life from my traveling days of the 20s? I was so excited. I sent someone with whom I was talking about Tom Robbins somewhat recently pictures of these books, and they were also beside themselves and like, okay, when you unhaul, are they going to me, kind of thing. Speaking of just those power players from the 1990s, and someone who I was just so surprised I wasn't finding very many books from, recently found one, which was Love, which I picked up from friends of my local library, and now this, which is Paradise, published in 1997. I guess if one's building a bookshelf, Toni Morrison, in my mind, and Alice Walker have to be on it. I'm tearing off these stickers as we speak because we don't need them there, right? Yeah, Toni Morrison, the late Toni Morrison, must be on it. And I am just so grateful to have found this beautiful. Like, somebody may or may not have read it. It doesn't seem to have any creases in the binding. Pristine condition hardback for $1. Also at that book sale, I found an library edition, obviously, of Tom Lake by Ann Patchett or Patchett. I just finished and thought that Ann Patchett was this fantastic storyteller. So I just finished State of Wonder, thought one came off, let's put another one on. I think this is a more recent release by this author. Yeah, it's listing State of Wonder as one of the books that are available by her. So I was really excited to find this for $1. I've said my piece about classics. I've never read this one, which is Sandro of, I think it's Shegem, maybe Shegem. I'm not even familiar with this classic. I was really excited to find this book. I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle this font. So if I can't, I'm just going to have to give it up to, I have a few friends that are really just Russian classic enthusiasts. So this, and the idiot might have to go to them, but I was really excited to find this for $1, and I want to know more and more about this book. And then the last book that I'm going to talk about, which was my last haul for $1, which was the Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. Oh my gosh, this book had some I think had some hype a few years ago, and anything that's about words and dictionaries will grab my attention. Of course, the blurb on the front is Geraldine Brooks, which I just finished The People of the Book by Geraldine Brooks. So, you know, when I find that endorsement, it does work. Marketing, it works. It pulled me in, and again, this was a library edition, so it doesn't even have crease. I don't know. It was a library edition, I believe. Did I say what? Yeah, this comes from Rochester Hills Public Library in Rochester, Michigan. So this book has traveled across the country and maybe was not read that much. And I took off the plastic thing from the library, so I don't have to hear that crinkle crinkle. But I'm super excited to have this book. It's also a beautiful, beautiful hardback. And so I think I don't want to say that's it for hauls, because whenever I say that, I don't mean it. I love hauling books. I love sorting through books, and I love giving books away, even to somewhat cranky, little free libraries that have neighbors that are that kind of way. Although, you know, don't get me wrong, I understand, like, people should not be abusing little free libraries. I think they're the most spectacular thing ever, and I'm very happy for them, and I plan to keep using them and contributing to them overall. So thanks for listening.